They appreciated that integration will be empty if there is no free movement of goods.
Parliament expects member states to fulfill their obligations, conclude national implementation strategies, and place mechanisms to monitor the implementation of the AFCTA.
That the ECOWAS Parliament, working with all stakeholders, will ensure that the objectives of the ACTA are achieved to their fullest. We are aware that it requires our genuine commitment and actions. Hence, the onus is on us to prevail on our states to take bold steps at tackling those issues that hinder free trade across our region and continent.
The meeting also recommends institutionalizing a consultation framework between Parliament, civil society, and the private sector to drive the implementation.
7 weeks from now, Africa will begin a continental free trade that promises to turn the table for Nigeria and launch the continent into a mega trading hub. With the AFCFTA seen as a game changer, how prepared is Nigeria? Some of these questions are begging for answers as we delve into the business for today. And with me this morning is Paul Alaji of SPM Professionals. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you so very much. Good morning.
The clock is ticking. Is Nigeria ready?
Well, when we ask the question if we are ready, it has to do with how prepared are we to trade with the rest of African continent, the remaining countries in African continent. And what matters the most is what we are bringing to the table. And when you look at Africa as a continent, is primarily dominated. So any country who can convert natural resources to finished goods will be the king, will be the economic leader of Africa. When you look at what China is doing in Asia, is that country the go-to country for the rest of Asia. And you could see that right now India seems to be doing the same thing, replicating it. America has done that for North America. So is Nigeria ready? There are basic issues. There are things which are the foundation, which I think we might be doing some of them, but the real issue, we have not done them significantly. And what is that foundation? The government seems to have paid attention to agriculture and see agriculture which will now serve as input for our manufacturing sector. That you might want to say, yes, government is paying attention to that, particularly in the issue of rice and consumables and the rest of that. Now, when Africa starts Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, it will be a bit concerned when our artisans are not yet organized and they are not organized for the new challenge ahead. In Lagos and some part of Abuja, we see that even those who help us with tiling our floors would prefer they come from neighboring West African country because we say they are near perfection. That does not mean our teaming youth cannot do this job. So government, who under different program that government is running, may need to now inculcate or add to what they are doing in terms of vocational training for young people we have in Kano, in Lagos, and we saw the devastation after the NSAS protest with hijack and looting and in some other places. I strongly believe that even though the time is no more there for us, the clock is ticking, we are barely 7 weeks before the implementation of these policies. So we still have major challenges, which of course we all know, power-related, education-related, and so on and so forth. But this seems to be everywhere in Africa. Most African countries, our visitors seems to be there. But Nigeria stands on a big chance to quickly, as a matter of a year or 2 years, start providing solutions to some of these problems. You know, because if we don't, we are the biggest market, over 200 million and still counting. So the rest of Africa wants to look up to Nigeria for demand. But what we, Nigeria, sell to the rest of Africa, and it does not mean we don't have anything at all. We have the largest cement factory in the whole of Africa. So, but that is private sector driven and it's company directed. How do we support more organization, more private sector, like what we have seen within the cement industry, which Nigeria has reached sufficiency, those three largest brands, you know, within Nigeria. We have also reached some level of efficiency in production of some other items. I could see that some Nigerians are now coming more into rice production and they hope to get sufficiency policy and said just to satisfy Nigeria. Nigeria still have over 1 million metric ton gap per day. But how do we improve this significantly and sell to the rest of Africa? If we have not solved our own problem, we certainly cannot solve problem of other people.
Okay, great. Now, you talked about poor production capacity and, of course, exporting to other countries. We've seen some efforts here and there. Let's say, for instance, in mining. Are we doing enough?
Well, in mining, I think we still have a long way to go. I've seen effort too of what has been happening in mining, but have we started to do that in commercial quantity? I would say no. It's still pockets of solutions. And I have advocated time and again that we need to find a coordination center beyond what National Economic Council is doing, because most of the people in National Economic Council are busy with their respective states. So, but we need private sector driven or individuals whose job purely will be to help us coordinate activities. What is happening in mining, what is happening in manufacturing, and so on and so forth. What is lacking in mining right now, perhaps, is how do we commercialize? How do we produce in large quantity? How do we adopt scale economies or economies of scale to improve what we do so that the rest of Africa can depend on us? And that is how our foreign reserve can be better. That's how our local currency can improve. And that's how we can improve it. But as we speak, yes, there are efforts, but when you look at the impact it's making on the population, it's not significant enough. It does not mean we are not doing at all, but it's not sufficient enough to drive us out of the place we all want to see. The president made the vision very clear to all of us: 100 million people out of poverty line. 100 million people out of poverty line. That means that's in 10 years. He put a timeline to. That means 10 million people in a year. And we have most of the solution we have on the table. African Continental Free Trade Area gives us another big opportunity. 1.2 million people. Nigeria is 0.2 million people. 1.2 million people. Additional 1 billion people in terms of market. What we should sell to them is locally made product. Do we want to sell our rice to them? Do we want to sell our refined oil to them? Do we want to sell our cement to them? Do we want to sell our salt to them? And what do African consume? African consume black soaps. Nigeria has abundance of black soap almost everywhere in Nigeria. So I think government, among the vocational training government is talking about support for young people. 75 billion naira is available for young people. Beyond mining, which is very important, we need to expand so that we can have more and more people who wants to practice in that regard come on board. But beyond all of those, because when you're talking about cement, it's also part of mining. You know, crushing rocks and all those, they're all part of mining. But beyond all of those, this is so very important. 75 billion naira for young people. How do we support them to become export-oriented? Some of these businesses we support, because that will have tremendous impact on our economy and our currency and our foreign reserve.
So now, while we're supporting the youth and creating jobs, making all the efforts, now parliamentarians of ECOWAS talk at their meeting in Benin Republic raised one very fundamental issue, that these policies are run in isolation with the parliamentarians in the respective countries. Do you see this as a setback, and do you think that there's enough time to bridge this gap, considering that we are getting into the holiday season?
Well, I don't think there is sufficient time. I don't think there's sufficient time, because when you look at different countries, there is this territorial protection and sovereignty. And everybody right now, countries wants to protect our citizens before talking about what happens to everybody around the continent. So there is no enough time. But if head of states of different countries have decided to go ahead and they are not changing their mind and not giving additional time because of COVID, because COVID disrupted everything. Before COVID, agreement had been signed into, and that was why it even extended. And we are not sure whether they may just want to extend it by another 6 months.
But they say they are not extending.
So, but if they are not extending it, there is no time. They just have to start anyways to see how it goes. But you cannot see that balance. Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt are those those are the three major countries everybody is looking at. Egypt for North America, Nigeria for West Africa, and talking about South Africa for Southern Africa, and Kenya for the East Belt. So when you look at this country, they have various challenges, disruptions they did not prepare for. Nigeria is minus 6.1% GDP growth according to National Bureau of Statistics. When you look at South Africa, it's even in recession. Egypt is not any better. Kenya has its own issues. It's dealing with inflation rate in Nigeria, relative price increase over time is over minus 13%. South Africa is more than double of what Nigeria is doing. And when you look around, you see that Africa have some unbalanced economy right now because of an unprecedented ailment, even though we thought Ebola would have given us the template, but COVID seems to be a bit different than what Ebola was. So it's a bit challenging, and I understand that those in authority, particularly countries that wants to maximize opportunity, because African Continental Free Trade Agreement may be that thing that may drive us out of economic quagmire if properly maximized. And what do we need to do is, how do we boost our exports? We may not boost it for UK or US or China, but for the rest of Africa, so that other countries that want to compete with us, they find it relatively challenging to compete with us because our price will be relatively cheaper compared to the rest of Africa. And so remember, it's not just product, it's also human.
So before I let you go, you made mention of COVID, and just yesterday Pfizer gave us the good news, 90% success rate on the vaccine, and we saw how it affected markets across the world. Virtually everything skyrocketed. Immediately the announcement came. Do you see these vaccine news being a booster for achieving the FCFTA target?
I completely, I see, that's the way I see it. Even though it's 90%, I know medicine is not the same with economics. Economics will tell you if you can get 95% and above, but medicine, if it's not 99.999%. But you see, in a situation where the world is on zero, anybody that scores 90% is certainly an hero. And I think that we should maintain that until we have something better. Medicine will improve over time. That is why you saw what Nigeria Stock Exchange is saying. You saw different stock exchanges around the world seems to have improved, and that is a signal of acceptance. That is a signal of hope that the world is ready for another order, and perhaps the world may overcome COVID in coming period. We are not saying that we are in a state of perfection. The state was in a state of commotion. I just gave you instances of what is happening across African continent. And it's not just Africa. Germany is not any better right now. So it's not just Africa. Even Europe is badly affected. Countries are on second round of lockdown. So when Pfizer is saying he has found a glimpse of hope, the world will expand it for Pfizer, and that's the truth. So what I think we should do is, continental free trade area is coming, people are locking borders with vaccines, border may be reopened and say it becomes compulsory to be vaccinated, because chances is 90%, 9 over 10, maybe 9 out of 10 people. So we are still relatively safe. We still put face masks, physical and social distance as we maintain now. All of those things will still be there, but I certainly believe that this is good news coming to the world, and we should all embrace it. And we should also have it as one of the conditions. And I think parliamentarians around the sub-region in Africa, we had it, and we can say we have a better way and a bigger business future, starting with 2021 for the entire continent.
So I guess we have some hope.
I think so too.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you so very much for
nice to have you all the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And so, still talking about COVID. While many young people see greener pastures outside the shores of Africa, some see opportunities back home. On our Surviving COVID-19 series today is a story of a mother and child who, amid the pandemic, came back to Nigeria defying all the challenges to make bold statements in the fashion industry, using every available space within their home, creating employment for others and reaching out to clients through the internet platform. Meet Olufunke Ogumbi, an entrepreneur.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Many young people look for opportunities outside the shores of Africa, believing the better life is out there, and take off at any given opportunity. For this lady, reverse is the case, as she's got her eyes fixed on opportunities back home. From Ontario in Canada Let's meet Funke Ogumbi, a geologist who has worked in a bank and developed a career in human resource management.
Growing up for me is more like I've always worn blazers, even if I'm just going out on a casual day, blazers on top of a camisole and jeans. So I thought, why not come and start something that has with camisoles? I looked around on the internet to see whether there was any business in Nigeria that caters for camisoles only, for the corporate world in this country, but I didn't find.
Funke is not alone in this business. Her 10-year-old daughter makes it a duty to resume at the business place after school to help out.
First of all, I helped with the designings of my mom because she was drawing some designs, so I helped with some designs like, oh, maybe this should be like this, or this should be maybe reversible, or this should have a zip, this should have a button. So I helped with that first, and then showing like some samples of some scrunchies and helping them design the bonnets and the reversible bonnet, and then that's how I started designing some of these dresses.
One of her ideas and products is a two-way headgear in addition to designs exclusively hers and ensuring her mother's business has a good presence on various social media platforms. Having learned to sew 17 years ago, a lot in the fashion industry has happened since then. And to catch up with trends in the fashion world and creating an unusual touch to our products, Funke employed the services of young talented tailors, most of whom are from Maiduguri.
I'm also a graduate, so the way we are in Nigeria now, let's say you finish school without a handwork or something else, you find it difficult living, searching for jobs.
Maiduguri is a very nice place. It's just because of the insurgency.
For Funke, she is running a marathon and added to that, which she says is capital intensive.
Start small and then take it gradually. Do we need finances to expand and grow bigger? Yes, we do, because there's a lot, because the equipment and the machines that we get, they are, they really cost a lot of money and they're not made in Nigeria. So importation is another thing again.
On where she wants to see herself in a few years, she has this to say.
We've not started kids yet, but we're looking to go in that route as well in the near future. So I really I'm hoping that we'll be able to get to that point, having at least one in 20 people having something from us.
While walking her talk, Funke recounts her humble beginning, where in May 2019, she conceived the idea, and on the 9th month, she birthed the idea with a lunch.
Surviving.
Gold prices edged higher in early Asian trade on Tuesday after falling as much as 5.2% in the previous session as hopes of more U.S. stimulus measures to weather the impact of rising COVID-19 cases nudged investors towards the precious metal as an inflation hedge. Well, the Nigerian capital market resumed this morning after adding some solid gains on Tuesday, 3.96%. Asian markets also resumed positive this morning as the region reacted to developments overnight on the coronavirus vaccine. Here's Boste Abel for details.
Markets in Asia Pacific were mixed in early Tuesday trade, while airline stocks soared as investors in the region reacted to positive development overnight on the coronavirus vaccine front. Nikkei rose 0.26%, the Hang Seng Index 0.43%, while the Shanghai Composite was 0.48% lower. European stocks are expected to open lower Tuesday, despite hopes that an effective coronavirus vaccine has been found. FTSE FTSE is seen opening 87 points lower at 6,110. DAX down 222 points at 12,896. And CAC 40 is seen 101 point lower at 5,235. Stock futures in the United States declined in overnight trading on Monday following a record-setting rally sparked by promising news on a coronavirus vaccine. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 243 points. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures also traded in negative territory. However, as at the time of this report, the market for Tuesday is yet to open, while Africa stocks opened mostly negative. Boss Day Able, Business Express.
And this is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so remember to keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News Now. Don't forget to use the hashtag. It is BizEx. Business Express returns Wednesday at 3 p.m. I am Leah Kating Babatunde saying, keep thinking and doing business and be safe out there.
There's the start and get. Promises to share out. Winds up that left hand. Archbishop of basketball, goal! He hung on that net like a stalk up a tree.
NTA Sports 24 brings you all sports, all time and all day. Tune in to watch NTA Sports 24 on Star Times Channel 270, StarSat on Channel 434 and Free TV on Channel 731. NTA Sports 24, where sports thrive.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
This is the network service of the NTA.